Mazza qua.
Sì.
Caro Presidente, cari colleghi, signore e signori, è per me un grande piacere di partecipare a questo seminario in questo prestigioso Palazzo Carito di Storia. Ringrazio fortemente gli organizzatori di queste bellissime manifestazioni di avermi invitato e spero poter, con la mia modesta contribuzione, aiutare per poco che sia a una comprensione dei nostri problemi comuni. Chiedo scusa di non poter proseguire nella bellissima lingua di Dante. Presenterò il mio proposito in inglese, that is to say, in French English. A spectre is haunting Europe, the spectre of the public debt and sustainability. In general terms, it is possible to speak of unsustainability when the cost of financing the public debt is growing significantly with the rise of debt and interest rates in order to affect the confidence in the solvency of the state. In France, public debt has grown rapidly from 60% of GDP in 2008 to 83% in 2010, and it could reach about 90% of GDP the next year. Facing this situation, it is necessary to react because today, in contrast of the 50 and 60, we can or want longer resort to solutions such as inflation or devaluation. It is therefore important to consider the sustainability of public finance. According to the economic definition of the sustainability, the situation of public finance is sustainable if, to constant law, future revenue allows the expenditure and repay present debt in the long term. This interpretation of sustainability was adopted by the European Commission. Indeed, the concern of sustainability was already included in the Treaty of Maastricht, which stipulated in this article on 104C, member states avoid excessive government deficits. Since 1997, the control of public finance in the EU has been part of the European regulation with the institution of the Stability and Growth Pact, which was amended in 2005, in great part because the French and German deficit, and now reformed again for more efficiency. In October, in response to the current turmoil on sovereign debt, the Council of the European Union adopted a package of 6 legislative proposals which reform both the preventive arm of the pact and the corrective arm. In addition to this legislative package, which will enter in force next January, the Euro Summit commits to the adoption by each Eurozone member state of rules on balanced budget in structural terms, translating the Stability and Growth Pact into national legislation, preferably at constitutional level or equivalent by the end of the next year. To achieve this goal, it is necessary to implement in decentralized state an internal stability pact. Point 2, the need of internal stability pact. To translate actually the Stability Pact into national legislation, it is necessary to reflect the constraint of the pact on the world public finances. But, as you know, only central governments are held accountable for compliance with the standards of the pact for all their public administrations. Consequently, each member state has to establish rules in order to get central government, but also social security funds and local authorities to respect the budgetary discipline of the pact. Please, moment. It's very difficult for me to speak English, but on the water it is impossible. Without. Oh la 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 la. Good. Well. Alors, consequently, member state, we must have an internal pact. But this requirement seems easier to complete in countries in which public finance is centralized, such as United Kingdom, for example, but in federal or regional states, such as Germany or Spain, it was necessary to develop, after negotiation between central government and local authorities, internal stability pact. French public finance are situated between the two types of situation. French public finance are decentralized, but there is no internal stability pact in France. French public finance are divided in three separate and unequal parts. Finance of social protection, which represent almost half of the whole, finance of state and other government bodies, approximately 1/3, and finance of local authority, representing only 20%. In this fragmented landscape, social security institutions and territorial community claim with more or less force their financial autonomy, even when they became more and more dependent on state funding. For example, financial transfer from the state to local communities represent about 100 billion euros this year. That is to say, about half of the local budget revenue. Since the French Parliament have been discussing and voting the annual social security bill and set the national health care expenditure target, the state has means of control on social security expenditure. But the financial dependence of territorial communities does not guarantee the control of public local finances to the state. The difficulty is for monitoring public stability pact, a choice or an impossibility. The Constitution guarantees self-government of local authorities and financial local autonomy. But in France, this large decentralization and financial autonomy does not lead to the implementation of internal stability pact. And that for two reasons. On the one hand,